huge passion of mine, and hopefully with this simple tutorial you'll see just how easy and fulfilling it can be. Try this simple sun-dried tomato Mediterranean bread and you won't be disappointed. For this lovely bread, the first thing that I've done on a medium heat is I've just simply sweated off some nice onions and a few peppers with a big sprig of thyme in there. And we're just going to keep that slowly reducing down, and we're going to add that to our bread, and it's going to add absolutely fantastic flavour. So as always with the bread, very simple. Start with your flour. We're going to add a little bit of sugar and a little bit of salt. This is basically our dry mix. Now the next thing we want to add is I have my nice tempered water. Now if I put my little finger in there, it's just slightly warm. You don't want it any warmer than that. I'm also going to add some olive oil to that mixture and my yeast. Now I'm using dried yeast today. If you want to use fresh yeast, just double up the quantity. Dried yeast is basically twice as strong as fresh yeast. So make sure that's nicely incorporated. And bread is so simple. You always have your basic mix with the flour, the water, the yeast, and then it's up to you what flavourings you add. There's any amount of flavourings that you can basically add. So I'm also going to add my lovely little sun-dried tomatoes. And my nice mixture has just simmered down nicely, and I'm just going to set that to one side and let it cool down. It's very important when you're making bread that you don't put anything too hot in there. Like, you can't heat that water too much, because what that'll do is it'll kill your yeast and your bread's just not going to rise at all. So it's time to basically get your hand in now and start bringing that together. Always make sure you wash your hands very thoroughly before you do this. You could of course use a little mixer if you're slightly lazy, but I like the lovely action of kneading the bread. I think it's really a very therapeutic thing to do. So just bringing that, and once it gets to that stage, I'm just going to tip it onto my bench, and I can really start working it then. Now we're going to knead this, and it's going to take about 6 or 7 minutes of this constant action. See the way I'm just folding it over? If it starts to stick a little bit, just sprinkle some nice flour on there, but make sure it keeps working for the next 6 or 7 minutes. So you can really see how that's really become elasticated now after about 6 or 7 minutes of constant kneading. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten it out like that, and you can see those lovely sun-dried tomatoes breaking into there. So I'm going to take my nice big sprig of thyme out of my mixture, and I'm just going to set that on top like that. Now because the peppers have a little bit of moisture in them, we're going to need some flour, and then it's time to just fold it in again. Now if you find it sticking at any stage, just keep that nice sprinkle of flour there, and we'll work it for another 3 or 4 minutes until those onions have all incorporated nicely, and then I'm going to put it in a bowl, cover it, and we'll let it prove for about an hour. So basically our dough has been up here for about an hour, and you can see just how big that's getting. It's really trying to escape out of the bowl. It's like some sort of wild creature the way it's grown. So we just flour our surface, and we're just going to pull that out onto our bench. Now the process that we're doing now is called knocking it back. We're basically knocking that air out of there, and now we can form it into the shapes that we want. So just move that around use as much flour, because what happens is those tomatoes and the peppers, a little bit of the moisture is going to come out of those and make your bread dough a little bit wet. So don't be scared to get lots of flour on that bench, otherwise it'll be sticking all over you. So once it's like that, we're just going to take one piece. Now the shape that I'm making today is called a fougasse. That's a French style, very flat, nice crispy Mediterranean style bread. So again, plenty of flour. Now I'm going to use a rolling pin just to help me along here, turn it over, flour that side. If you use enough flour, the bread's never going to stick to anything. So we're rolling it again, and we're basically looking for an oval shape. So once we get something like that, what we're going to do is have a little tray to bake it in the oven here. I'm just going to flour it nicely. So the next stage, what I have is a pair of scissors. Make sure they're nice and clean, and we're just going to make 3 snips down that side, at that angle, and 3 coming back this way. Now, using your hands, just accentuate those little holes. Like that, and then we're just going to transfer it like that, very simply, onto our nice floured tray. Now what's going to happen there is that'll crispen up, and all those bits you'll be able to tear apart and they'll be really nice and crispy, fresh bread. So basically, I'm just going to cover that, and we're going to let it prove, which means let it rise up again for another 20 to 25 minutes. So my bread's been proven for a further 25 minutes, and if you look at that, it's really puffed up nicely. That's exactly what we're looking for. It's starting to take shape. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it into my oven at 200 degrees. So when it comes out of the oven, it's going to be nice and crunchy, and it's going to make for a fantastic Mediterranean style bread.